Good afternoon. Thank you, David O., for a magnificent performance of Saraband. And thank you all for coming out here today and joining us to commemorate the Holocaust and to remember those who suffered and lost their lives during this dark period of history. My name is Maxine Sennett, and I am the daughter of 2 Holocaust survivors. I am also the chairperson for the state of North Carolina Holocaust Commemoration Planning Committee. The Holocaust Commemoration Planning Committee is one of several committees positioned under the North Carolina Council on the Holocaust. The Holocaust Council, in turn, is organized under the North Carolina Department of Public Instruction. In just a moment, we will be fortunate to hear a few words from Senator Phil Berger, President pro tempore of the North Carolina Senate, as well as a message from Governor Josh Stein. At the back of your program, you will find the names of the members of the Commemoration Planning Committee. At this time, I would like the members to please stand, as I would like to offer my personal thanks and gratitude to this amazing, incredible team that worked tirelessly all year towards today's Holocaust commemoration event. Michael Abramson, Shelley Bleiweiss, Richard Friedman, Mark Grossman, Sharon Kurtzman, Robin Marks, Julian Schmidt, Helen Slotsky, and Christy Kolosa-Vinson. Thank you. I would also like to thank Craig Medin, the president, and Robin Talley, interim chief executive officer of the Jewish Federation of Greater Raleigh, for their financial support in mailing over 2,000 postcards to promote this commemoration event. Today, we come together to observe and reflect on this solemn occasion of Holocaust remembrance by honoring the 6 million Jewish men and women, including 1.5 million Jewish children, who were systematically murdered by the Nazi regime. We also remember the millions of others who suffered and perished: Roma, Sinti, disabled individuals, political dissidents, LGBTQ plus people, and countless others targeted for their identity, beliefs, and differences. This year's commemoration has a theme: keeping memories alive, which calls us to reflect on the lessons learned from the past and to act in ways that honor the memory of the victims. As you entered today's event, you received a bracelet with the words "Remember" and the Hebrew translation of Zakor. These bracelets are a symbol of our collective commitment to never forget the atrocities of the Holocaust and to honor the memory of those who were persecuted and murdered. Earlier this year, on January 27th, the world gathered. It was the 80th anniversary of the liberation of Auschwitz. As we joined the international community, we were faced with the reality that there are fewer and fewer survivors with us. For 8 decades, their voices have carried the weight of history. As time marches forward now, the number of living Holocaust survivors continues to dwindle. These survivors, once young children, teenagers, and adults who endured unimaginable horrors, having bravely carried the responsibility of sharing their stories for decades. They gave a face to history, a voice to those who were silenced, and a warning to future generations about the dangers of hatred and dehumanization. But as we lose these firsthand witnesses, the responsibility for remembrance does not fade, but rather it shifts. It is now up to the second and third generations, the children and grandchildren of survivors, to carry forward their legacy. These descendants are not just storytellers, they are guardians of the truth. They've inherited not just memories and testimonies, but also the duty to preserve history, counter and refute Holocaust denial, and oppose all forms of anti-Semitism. The second generation grew up in the shadow of the Holocaust, often absorbing its trauma in deeply personal ways. Many were raised with the echoes of their parents' pain woven into the fabric of their own lives. Therefore, they are uniquely positioned to share these intimate truths, offering perspectives that bridge the gap between survivor testimony and modern audiences today. The third generation brings something equally powerful: a fresh voice in a digital, connected world. They are artists, educators, and technologists who can tell these stories in new formats through films, social media, podcasts, virtual reality, and educational programs. They are equipped to reach younger audiences and ensure that remembrance is not just solemn, but also relevant. The Holocaust was not just a Jewish tragedy, it was a human one. And the duty of memory is not limited by bloodline. It is a responsibility shared by all who believe in dignity, humanity, and justice. But for those who bear the direct legacy, children and grandchildren of survivors, theirs is a sacred bond. Their voices will echo long after the last survivors fade, ensuring that the world does not forget. As we proceed with today's program, let us remember that we gather not only in mourning, but also in solidarity. We stand united in our commitment to ensuring the honors of the Holocaust are never repeated. Thank you. Thank you all so much for being here today and for honoring the memory of those who could no longer speak for themselves. I will leave you with the words of Holocaust survivor Elie Wiesel. Elie Wiesel said, "I believe firmly and profoundly that whoever listens to a witness becomes a witness. So those who hear us, those who read us, must continue to bear witness for us. Until now, they were doing it with us. At a certain point in time, they will do it for all of us." And now I would like you all to please stand and join Laura Sokol-Mead as we sing our national anthem. Thank you.
Oh, say, can you sing by the dawn's early light what so proudly we held at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
I'm Rabbi Lucy Dinner from Temple Beth Or, and here to offer, on behalf of our Governor, Josh Stein, a letter upon this occasion. Dear North Carolina Council on the Holocaust, it is a profound honor to participate in the 2025 State of North Carolina Holocaust Commemoration. I regret not being able to join you in person, and I am grateful to me for sharing my words with you. Today, we affirm our solemn commitment to never forget one of humanity's darkest chapters, when 6 million Jews and millions of others were systematically exterminated by the Nazis and their collaborators. To be confronted with the Holocaust is to be shaken to the core. In commemorating these lives lost and bearing witness to the unimaginable atrocities of the Holocaust, we must do more than remember. We must work to educate future generations about the devastating consequences of unchecked hatred, discrimination, and intolerance. In this time of increased episodes of antisemitism, the need for education on the causes of the Holocaust has never been greater. The Gisela Abramson Holocaust Education Act, passed in 2021, ensures that Holocaust education is included in our middle and high school curriculums. The North Carolina Council on the Holocaust and our state's amazing educators deliver outstanding programs that transform how our students understand this critical chapter of human history. To that end, I urge the General Assembly to approve the Council's request for a $350,000 recurring appropriation, which would enable them to continue its vital work. I would like to thank our honored Holocaust survivors whose stories bring truth into focus through the clouds of misinformation. I am also grateful to the Holocaust Commemoration Planning Committee and its chair, Maxine Sennett, and the members of the North Carolina Council on the Holocaust and its chairman as well, and Vice Chair Richard Swartz. Your hard work ensures students comprehend the profound consequences of hatred and intolerance and helps us stem the rising tide of anti-Semitism. In honor of the victims of the Holocaust on this day and every day, let us dedicate ourselves to learn from history and to stand up against forces of anti-Semitism and hate wherever and whenever they rear their heads. Sincerely, our Governor, Josh Stein.
Phil Berger graduated from Wake Forest University Law School and practiced law in Charlotte and Raleigh before settling in Eden, which is north of Greensboro. Mr. Berger was first elected to the state Senate in 2000. His colleagues elected him minority leader in 2004 and president pro tempore in 2010 after Republicans won a Senate majority in the North Carolina General Assembly for the first time since the 19th century. Senator Berger has championed Holocaust education in North Carolina and is a strong supporter of the work of the North Carolina Council on the Holocaust. He has appeared at a previous State of North Carolina Holocaust Observance Day. We are delighted to welcome back Senator Berger, my friend, Senator Berger.
Well, thank you. And I want to thank the Holocaust Commemoration Committee for inviting me to come today. It's actually turned out to be a special treat for me. Former Senator David Weinstein, who I've not seen in several years, is actually in the audience, and I had a chance to renew an acquaintance with him and have, David, I've been asking about you for years, and it's so nice to see you again. I come to bring you greetings on behalf of the Senate of North Carolina and on behalf of the government of North Carolina, and welcome you to the McKimmon Center. You know, this center is dedicated to continuing education, and what better use of this facility than to make sure that we remember, that we honor, and that we continue educating ourselves and others about the horrors that took place in the Holocaust. Because while, gosh, when I was growing up, I don't think there was a thought that folks would forget, or that there was a thought that folks would take the position that, well, maybe it didn't happen. And yet we cannot pick up a magazine, look at television news accounts, and Lord help you if you go on the internet and see just some of the most horrendous things written and talked about that mislead, misinform, and certainly do not give the appropriate honor and remembrance to what occurred. I'm proud to say that in North Carolina, in our public schools, we have taken steps to hopefully keep that from becoming more ingrained in our society, and that is with our programs of Holocaust education. And I was pleased to see the program today indicate that we're actually going to hear from some educators who are on the front lines and providing that sort of information to students all across the state of North Carolina. So it is a pleasure to be here with you today. Again, I bring you greetings from your state government, and I certainly appreciate the work that is being done on your behalf and on behalf of the people of the state of North Carolina by the folks who have organized this meeting today. So thank you very much.
I'm Richard Schwartz. I'm the Vice Chairman of the North Carolina Council on the Holocaust, and I want to assure you that we have no greater friend than Senator Berger in the North Carolina General Assembly. He has been instrumental in so many efforts on behalf of the council and in ensuring that the message of never again is heard loudly and clearly across North Carolina, and particularly in our schools and from our educators. And so to that end, Senator Berger, I'd like to present you with this plaque, which reads as follows: the North Carolina Council on the Holocaust, on behalf of our state's Holocaust survivors, educators, and future generations of students, gratefully acknowledges the steadfast support of North Carolina Senate President Pro Tem Phil Berger, and hereby recognizes his key role in leadership in the successful enactment, funding, and implementation of the Gisela Abramson Holocaust Education Act, moving us closer to the promise, never again. April 27, 2025.
So this will shock my wife, but I'm sort of speechless. So that rarely happens. But again, thank you so much. This will go up on the wall in my Senate office in a place where everyone can see it. So thank you.
Please rise for the Song of the Partisans.
Feel free to sing along if you know it. Sag nie kennmolas du geist der letzten Weg, wenn himlen bleien verstellen bleie Tag. Kommen wird doch unser Oschkabente Show, es wird der Poikton unser Schatmer sein do. Kommen wird doch unser Oschkabente Show, es wird der Poikton unser Schatmer sein do. Never say that you have reached the very end, when leading skies a bitter future may portend. For the hour for which yearn will yet arrive, and our marching steps will thunder we survive. For the hour for we've yearned will yet arrive, and our marching steps will thunder we survive.
Good afternoon. It is such an honor to be with you today. My name is Lee Holder. I am a retired social studies teacher and a member of the North Carolina Council on the Holocaust. I'm on both the Traveling Exhibit Committee and the Education Committee of the Council. In 2021, I created the Gisela Gross Abramson Resource Center for Holocaust and Civil Rights Education. It is located in Kinston. Yes, Kinston. And if you ever get a chance or you're in the area, I would love for you to stop by and visit. In November 1991, I was a new teacher and went to my first Holocaust education workshop. It was held in Wilson, North Carolina. It was hosted by the council, and the featured speaker was Gisela Abramson. That day, I'll admit I arrived late because I got lost, and the only seat available was in the front row, middle seat. So I reluctantly had a seat there, and my life was changed. My entire perspective on teaching and life was changed that day when I met Miss Abramson. At 1 o'clock, and I knew it was 1 o'clock because she was always on time, she came out and presented her story. And I've never been able to describe this to anyone, but my eyes were locked on her eyes, and it was like I could see everything she was saying in her eyes as she said it. At the end of her presentation, she gave us 3 words that have been the focal point of my teaching ever since. You heard earlier, Elie Wiesel said, once you hear a witness, you become your witness. Gisela was a little more blunt. She looked across the room and just said, tag, you're it. We all knew exactly what she meant. I always include that story when I make presentations to teachers. A couple of years ago in Harnett County, after the presentation, several teachers from Pine Springs Prep Academy came up to me after the workshop, and they were very excited about including the Tag Your It idea into a project they wanted to bring back to their school. What their students and teachers have done is simply incredible. There's some samples of the students' work outside in the lobby. Please make sure you have a chance to stop by and see it and talk to the students. One of the lead teachers on the project, Jody Rubin, asked me to read this to you today. Through this project, our 7th grade students contributed to the ongoing remembrance of Holocaust survivors. Titled, Tag Your It, Anyone Who Hears a Witness Becomes a Witness, this project has empowered our students to embrace the responsibility of bearing witnesses themselves. Guided by the driving question, how can we as 7th grade historians and storytellers honor and preserve the experience of Holocaust survivors to ensure their voices of resilience are heard for generations to come? Students embarked on a meaningful and impactful journey. They were given the unique opportunity to interview Holocaust survivors or someone connected to a Holocaust survivor, such as a family member or close friend. From these interviews, students crafted biographical essays, visual narratives, and creative representations that brought these survivors' stories to life. To further amplify these voices, students compiled their work into a website, contributing to the shared mission of preserving these testimonies for future generations. We also have 2 of our 8 traveling suitcase exhibits on display outside. One features a young boy and one features a young girl. I'm extremely excited, as the rest of the council is, in our new traveling exhibit. It's called Finding Home Again, Holocaust Survivors in North Carolina. Some panels of this exhibits are also in the lobby for you to have a look at. The complete exhibit will consist of 42 panels, 40 of which will be dedicated to survivors or refugees from Nazi Germany who moved to North Carolina. That's 40 of the 308 survivors and refugees from Nazi Germany that have made this their home, at least 308. Teachers created these exhibits at the Gathering of Holocaust Educators that's held at NCAT, the North Carolina Center for the Advancement of Teaching. We have printed multiple copies of the exhibit, so they will be available in every area of our state, so that every teacher in this state will have access to them and can check these out for their school. On the website, there is a digital version, and we also have lesson plans printed. Also, if you have a chance later, we are printing booklets with the entire exhibit in them, and they are absolutely beautiful. And please use the QR codes that are located on the first 2 panels. They will take you to all of our research on the Holocaust. and survivors that moved to North Carolina. Before I introduce the film about Gisela Abramson, I want to update everyone about the teacher outreach of the council, and I'm just going to mention things that have happened this year. During this school year, we have hosted 8 workshops across the state of North Carolina. We have had 406 teachers at these workshops, and keep in mind the resources, curriculum, lesson plans, and pedagogy that we share is expanded exponentially as they head back to their classrooms, schools, and communities. 406 teachers will roughly be teaching about 20,000 students this semester at a minimum. Those are the students we have reached. This year, we have also created a new outreach program. We are holding webinars with Holocaust survivors during the school day so students can directly, and teachers can directly interact with survivors of the Holocaust. Our first one featured Margot Labray. We had 135 schools or 135 teachers present and over 8,000 students at that one webinar. Our second webinar featured Shelley Weiner. We had 162 teachers in attendance with over 6,000 students. Tomorrow morning, we will have our third and last webinar. We are being, I wanted to say the word broadcast, but that's showing my age. We will be on the internet in 407 schools, 407 teachers. Tomorrow morning, think about this when you're out. Tomorrow morning, 14,000 students in North Carolina will be hearing a Holocaust survivor and studying the Holocaust. 14,000 tomorrow morning. I know there's an overlap in these numbers, but just these 3 webinars alone, we have reached 700 teachers and over 28,000 students. We will now turn our attention to a short animated film about Gisela Abramson. But first, I want to talk to Maxine because that's always important to do.
I'm so sorry. Okay, guys, listen, I apologize, but please, for the students who are here, that are here from Pine Springs Preparatory Academy, please stand up. You all deserve such a round of applause for all the work you did. Thank you so much.
I was going to do that at the end, but no, that's fine. I was going to do it at the end, but thank you. Okay, on the film, this film is one of 8 short animated films that relate to the Holocaust. They are created to enhance Holocaust lessons in the classroom. They can be found on the council website, and they can also be found on the website of the Department of Public Instruction. Each has been vetted by Holocaust experts and is accompanied by multiple resources and lesson plans. I want to thank you. If you haven't had a chance yet, please stop by the exhibits before you leave today. And by the way, Tag, you're it.
When Nazi Germany invaded Poland, life changed for all Polish people, but especially for those who were Jewish. The occupied country was home to 15-year-old Gisela Gross and her family. A smart girl, she excelled at languages, a skill which would one day help her to survive. For her own safety, she was sent to stay with family in Lutsk in Soviet Ukraine. But when the city also fell under Nazi control, all Jewish residents were forced to move into a ghetto, a restricted separate section of the city. But the Nazis permitted Gisela's uncle, a doctor, to leave the ghetto to treat patients, and sometimes Gisela joined him. One day she forgot to wear her Jewish identity badge, and the guards mistook her for a Christian. She soon realized that she could use her blonde hair and green eyes to her advantage. Looking for ways to escape the ghetto, her uncle found a farmer willing to take in Gisela, her aunt, and her 2 cousins. Because of her appearance, she was able to hide in plain sight. But the farmer became worried for his family's safety and eventually asked her to leave. Heading to another farm to hide, she witnessed the Nazis killing a group of Jewish people. Traumatized, she fled and was found by Soviet partisans speaking incoherently. An officer soon realized she was talking in Polish, German, and Russian, a skill valued by the resistance. Putting herself at great risk, she became a spy, going undercover to work on a Nazi-occupied farm, and then to SS headquarters in Lutsk, gathering information, helping the Soviet partisans blow up an ammo dump. But in 1943, she was caught and deported to concentration camp Majdanek. Ordered to translate for the Nazis, Gisela was violently beaten when she refused. As Soviet troops approached in 1944, Nazi officers gave the order to shoot many of Majdanek's prisoners. Gisela was found by Russian liberators, alive but unconscious, at the edge of a mass grave, and eventually made her way to an American displaced persons camp near Munich. After the war, Gisela immigrated to the United States, settling in North Carolina. Letting go of the trauma she had faced was hard, but eventually she realized that to live with hate was to let the Nazis win, a thought that set her free. As a survivor, Gisela shared her story with students, spreading a message of hope, equality, and inclusion. She was a founding member of the North Carolina Council on the Holocaust to ensure that future generations would understand the consequences of allowing hate to flourish.
Good afternoon. I'm Sharon Kurtzman, and I'm the daughter of 2 Holocaust survivors. In past commemorations, we've invited speakers who were Holocaust survivors or children of survivors. Sadly, in 2025, many survivors have passed on. This year, we're presenting a Holocaust education panel with 3 dedicated North Carolina educators who traveled to Poland for a training seminar about the Holocaust. As you've heard others mention, Elie Wiesel once said, "When you listen to a witness, you become a witness." With many survivors gone, it is through our teachers and the education of the generations to come that we keep the memory of the Holocaust and those lost alive. Today, we're joined on our panel by 3 dedicated North Carolina educators. I'd like to introduce to you Melanie Handy, a teacher from James B. Dudley High School in Greensboro, North Carolina. Ashlyn Steelman-Tobert, a teacher at William C. Friday Middle School in Dallas, North Carolina, which is in Gaston County. And Stephanie Walker, who teaches at Heritage High School in Wake Forest, North Carolina. Now, I'd also like to introduce Rabbi Fred Gutman, who led a group of North Carolina educators, including our panelists, on an 8-day trip to Poland. Rabbi Gutman is the Rabbi Emeritus of Temple Emmanuel in Greensboro, North Carolina, having served the congregation there from 1995 to 2021. Rabbi Gutman is a committed and dedicated Holocaust educator, having led 23 educational trips to Poland for adults and teens. For the past 2 years, Rabbi Gutman has organized study trips to Poland for 70 public high school teachers with the purpose of helping them gain a better understanding of the Shoah so that this experience would enhance their teaching of the Holocaust. Now, I turn the stage over to Rabbi Gutman. Give us a moment while we set up. And our teachers are going to join us up here now.
Good afternoon, everyone. According to Yad Vashem in Jerusalem, there are now 29 states that have mandated legally some sort of Holocaust education in public schools. North Carolina was among the first. In many respects, North Carolina, Senator Berger, has always been ahead of the game, and we are very proud of that. Our program now has taken teachers from 49 out of 100 counties in the state. As of the end of this summer, it will be something, I think, like 65, Lee. Do you know the exact number? 61 out of 100 counties. We have been successful in fundraising for 3 years in a row, and we wanted to make sure that every public school teacher that we choose to go is fully subsidized, and that has involved raising over $500,000 to make that happen. I've been working in Holocaust education since 1980. From a Jewish perspective, we had several goals in our program that should be called out right now. One was to emphasize, I guess you could give a greater understanding of anti-Semitism, both historically and contemporaneously. A second one was to understand Jewish life before, during, and after the Holocaust. Another way to look at this was to say that the program not only shows how Jews were killed, but how they lived and how we live today. On our trip, participants enjoyed a traditional Shabbat Sabbath dinner on Friday night. We also emphasized resistance in all its forms, spiritual, moral, cultural, and active. Our kids need role models in order not to be bystanders. And finally, our program dealt with what the United States could have done to rescue more Jews, including the bombing of the tracks to Auschwitz. Raised in this subject is how do we hold our government accountable then, as well as now, and how does that make us good citizens? While on the ground in Poland, we visited with the following people. We met with the chief rabbi of Poland, a Monsignor, who was in charge of an art exhibit from a Holocaust survivor, Bogdan Bialik, the founder of a museum dedicated to increasing understanding between Jews and Poles. In the community culture where in Bogdan lives, there was a terrible pogrom on July 4th, 1946, in which 49 Jews were slaughtered. We met with a representative of Progressive Judaism. We met with Jonathan Ornstein, the director of the Community Center in Krakow. The center has been instrumental in welcoming and receiving refugees, both Jewish and non-Jewish, from Ukraine. And while we were there, we were fortunate to meet with the 95-year-old Bernard Alphen, an incredible survivor who actually does volunteer work at 95 years old at the community center. It was also quite, after looking at the movie of Gisela, it was also quite an experience, Mike, to tell the story of your mother's liberation standing right next to the pit from which she was rescued. That, it gives me goosebumps to think of it even today. Our program has had a great bang for the buck. If every teacher of the teaches 35, if every teacher of the 35 teaches around 120 students a year, and none of them were to stop teaching, the numbers would look as follows. After the end of the first year, after the program, 4,200 students would have been taught. In the year 2, that number grows to 12,400, and at the end of year 3, more than 25,000 students will have been taught by the more than 100 teachers that we will be taking. Our program has more than 50 hours of intensive instruction in it. The latest on our program is that this year Fox News is sending a reporter with us and a camera person, and is considering doing a national documentary on Holocaust education in public schools. The documentary, if it is made, will be shown in September. And I've been told that if the project continues as expected, our program will be quite an amazing part of the documentary that Fox is making. Recently, I've received a call from the education director and the chair of the Texas Holocaust Commission. They, along with the state of Georgia, are considering copying our program and taking groups of teachers in 2026. In the latest news, this year we'll be taking a representative of the Anti-Defamation League, who is the education director for the DC region, and is also one of the leaders in the Echoes and Reflection program. We've had numerous conversations with Yad Vashem concerning using their expertise to run this program for other states, this program in Poland for other states. However, there's a chance that under the auspices of Echoes and Reflections and the ADL, a national coordinator might be found to bring this program to many other states. I know this sounds dreamy and it sounds like a pie in the sky, but it's been my experience after more than 40 years of teaching and serving as a rabbi that dreams often do come true. The final thing that I want to emphasize is that the best thing about our program has been our teachers. Incredible and dedicated are two words that just begin to describe who they are. Sitting in front of you is Melanie Handy, who is the Teacher of the Year. Teacher of the Year at Dudley High School. Ashlyn Steelman Tolbert, who is the Teacher of the Year in Gaston County. And finally, Stephanie Walker, who is, in my book, the Teacher of the Year, but more important than anything, had a baby this month. She's carrying on, and we're so honored to have them with us today. We are overjoyed that Laurie Schaefer will be joining us this year. The incoming chair of the council will be joining us on our trip. I'd like to thank the North Carolina Council on the Holocaust and the Foundation for all of its support and dedication to Holocaust education in our state. I cannot help but feel that because of the council, we are really making a difference. On behalf of myself and my family, a family which lost 1/3 of its members during the Holocaust, and on behalf of the Jewish community in North Carolina and elsewhere, I want to thank all of you from the bottom of my heart for your support, and above all, thank these three incredible women. I would just like to mention one other thing. October the 7th is a date that goes down in infamy for the Jewish people, and yet October the 7th in 1944 was the day of the Sonderkommando revolt in Birkenau, in Auschwitz-Birkenau, which took out crematoria and gas chamber unit number 4 and saved thousands of lives. That crematoria was blown up because for 6 months prior to that, women in Auschwitz had smuggled in, women who were working in the Union munitions factory had smuggled in their undergarments, dynamite or gunpowder, which was about this size. And they brought it in day after day after day after day, and the whole crematorium was blown up. I never like saying this about the people I know, but I honestly feel that those women who did that are with us today in spirit, in terms of the three women who are sitting in front of you, because they are, to me, heroes who are living today and are dedicated to the values which those women were dedicated during the war in Auschwitz-Birkenau. Thank you so much for your support, and I hope you enjoy meeting these incredible people.
Thank you, Rabbi Gutman. And I am so honored to be sitting up here with the three of you. So if we're ready, Stephanie, I'm going to start with you since you have the mic. Okay, all right. So, first question. How did your expectation of the concentration camps like Auschwitz, Treblinka, Majdanek match up with what you saw and experienced?
So my expectations, I felt like going on this trip, I kind of knew what I was going to experience. I have a Holocaust degree from Appalachian, a minor in Holocaust studies, and I've seen concentration camps. I had gone to Dachau, I had gone to some other camps in France previously, but nothing could really fully prepare me for being at an extermination camp, especially because the majority of survivors that I had the honor of meeting in my life at this point were survivors of Auschwitz. Auschwitz was definitely the one that I felt the most prepared for. It's heavily documented in my Holocaust elective that I teach at my school. It's one that I'm familiar with, the images talking about, and I'm comfortable with a lot of the survivor testimonies. But being there the whole time was very haunting. And I spoke with my husband about this after the day that we spent there. The whole time when we were walking around, I was hearing a North Carolina survivor, Rena, talk in her testimony in her book, Rena's Promise. I just felt like I heard her voice the entire time. When we got to the execution wall, the memorial that's now there for the Soviet prisoners of war, I could hear her voice talking about looking through the barrack next to it, or the window of the block next to it, the boarded up windows, and seeing these prisoners of war being killed while she sat in Soviet POWs uniforms that they had been put in when they got there. I heard her voice when we were in Birkenau, and her testimony that outlined her and her sister Danka's experience of escaping the grasp of Dr. Mengele. Having been familiar with testimony, but then being there made it all the more real for me. Something that I expected, but I did not realize how connected testimonies I had experienced previous would make me feel to this place. Now, Majdanek and Treblinka had a slightly different experience. Treblinka being solely an extermination camp, and the fact that the only thing there is the memorial left me feeling just gutted. The evidence of what happened is gone. And the whole time I was walking around, I was flooded with emotions, but I was thinking, how do I talk to my students about this? Something that they tangibly cannot see because the camp itself was destroyed. But having that conversation and utilizing the video that the museum at Treblinka has to show them what happened there. And then Majdanek, we heard Lee talk about Gazella earlier, but Majdanek, I think, was the hardest for me to experience. Gazella's story is one that I have been familiar with for quite a while now, and I've heard Lee speak about her multiple times, and his love is always there. But watching him do it in front of the mass grave where she was saved was one of the most emotional experiences I feel like I had on the trip. And then more importantly, Majdanek really made me understand how people knew. When standing at that camp, you can see houses and businesses in Lublin. You can stand there, and to get to the Christian cemetery, you have to go past the camp itself. And knowing that people made that journey to visit their loved ones at their grave sites while going past this extermination camp was so impactful. And now it's something that I really try to talk to my students about. the fact that ordinary people made decisions and ordinary people knew what was happening, and you can stand at Majdanek and you can't question whether or not people were aware. It's something that you are faced with. And I think that was really what kind of changed my perspective on this trip, is how personal going there is. And I think it's something that everyone should experience as a result.
Yeah, hearing you describe that, I feel the impact here, and I am sure you bring that to your students. Thank you. Ashlyn, same question. Same question.
So when you teach or learn about the Holocaust, as Stephanie said, you hear a lot about Auschwitz. That is the one that everyone knows about. Everyone's seen pictures of it. It is the largest death and concentration camp, with it being attached with Birkenau. And we talked a lot on this trip about there being power in place. You know, you see these pictures online, you see videos and all of that, but it's different when you're standing in the spot where there were so many people murdered and so many atrocities that did happen. There was countless times when I was walking through the camp where I was unable to shut my mind off and just be there, be with it. I could not stop thinking about the people that were in these camps, that experienced these horrible things. And when you're at Auschwitz, you see they have a room for the luggage and the glasses and the rings and the shoes. But for me, the hardest part of this whole experience was seeing the children's shoes. I'm not a mom, but I have students, and my students are my kids, and I tell them that all the time. And I love them so much. And having that innocence stolen from children and just being thrust into this nightmare where they wake up every single day scared if that's going to be their last day. That was hard to think about and know that that's exactly what they had to endure every single day. The one that stood out most to me besides Auschwitz was Treblinka, with it being completely destroyed. And as Stephanie said, there was nothing left at Treblinka except for the memorial. And 900,000 roughly people were murdered there. And the ability for the Nazis to completely destroy that camp, to me, was terrifying. The fact that they knew liberation was coming, and they knew in their brains they had enough ability to know that what they were doing was wrong and they needed to destroy it and hide it. And that was extremely hard to come to terms with, you know, that ordinary people can do such horrible, horrible things and continue to do so and try to hide from it once it was done.
Thank you, Ashlyn. That was very powerful. Yeah, hearing that. Melanie.
I thought that I knew about the Holocaust. I had read books and seen movies, and I had actually taught a unit on the Holocaust prior to going on this trip. So I thought I had this fundamental understanding of what these spaces were. But I don't think that there is anything that could have actually prepared me for standing in those spaces. When I think about Auschwitz, yes, the suitcases and the shoes and, you know, the items, the glasses, but what almost took me over the edge was the hair that was collected, and this huge glass encompassed display of hair that was ultimately used to make textiles and rugs. And that took me to a place that I had never been before, and I never want to go again. When I think about Treblinka, one of the things the thing that stood out the most to me is when you first go to the camp, they take you to this visitor center. And in this center, there is a model a beautiful model of what it looked like. And the train that would come in, and there were these barracks at the front for the officers, and flowers and trees and shrubbery, and it looked so neat. And that was kind of like a facade for what was really going on in the camp behind. But because they destroyed the entire camp, they built this model to show visitors what it looked like at the time. And that still stands out to me today. Majdanek, again, like Stephanie said, the close proximity to the neighborhood right next door where people lived and had to know what was going on. These are the things that I carry with me today. But mostly, who thought this was a great idea? And then who co-signed it and continued to co-sign it? These are the things that I kept saying over and over to myself as I traveled through these camps and these spaces.
Thank you, Melanie. I've never been to either of any of the places, and so thank you for sharing your impressions, you and all three of you. Next question, and you're holding the mic, so I'm going to go to you. How did hearing survivor stories and personal testimonies impact you?
The most impactful story and testimony that I had was with Bernard Offen. And, you know, he survived Auschwitz and Dachau, if I'm not mistaken. And I asked him, how did you find it in your heart to forgive these people that had done these horrific things to you? And he said that if he had allowed those people if he had kept seeking revenge or being angry with people that did these horrific things to him, he would have been giving them power. And he didn't want to do that. So he had to let it go. And I carry that with me, because even like you think of the small things that people do to you, and you have to let that go, because forgiveness is not for them, it's for you. You can't hold that. You can't carry it. You cannot lug it around with you. It does you no good. You have to let it go.
That's so true. Very true. Ashley?
Thank you. The exact same thing that Melanie said, what stood out the most with Bernard was he had to find it in his heart to be able to forgive these people. And just looking from an outsider perspective, I don't know that I would be able to do that. It took an extremely strong person, and it showed the true testament of the human spirit to be able to forgive and move on. And like Melanie mentioned, he said he didn't want to continue to give them power. He wanted to move on with his life, and that is extremely powerful. But we were given the privilege that so many people were not and will not be able to. We met a survivor, and as each year passes, the number of survivors of the Holocaust is dwindling. And it is our job as friends and family and educators and elected officials to continue to share their stories. Their stories should not be dismissed or looked over or forgotten. And that's where their testimonies have left me, is I have the responsibility to share their stories with anyone and everyone that will actually listen to me.
That's wonderful. And as the daughter of survivors, I really appreciate that. Stephanie?
I agree with both of these women. Bernard's ability to forgive is something that I feel like most survivors have in common. When I was in high school, I took the Holocaust elective that I now teach, which made me want to be a teacher. And during that time, the first Holocaust survivor I ever met was the youngest male member of Schindler's List, Leon Leeson. And he completely changed my life at the age of 14. And I asked him what I could do. What can I do to make sure, like, what can I do to make sure this isn't forgotten? And he told me to teach and to not let his life be forgotten. And I think that that is where testimony has left me. Going to Poland felt like fulfilling a promise to Leon. And his testimony led me, funny enough, to one of the council's remembrance celebrations in 2011, which led me to Appalachian State, which has pushed me to do all the things that I have done. So testimony, I think, is the most important thing. And when it came to our trip, what left the biggest impact was having all those testimonies that I had experienced personally through meeting survivors or reading about it or watching the videos, and getting to see what they lived in person to some extent. Being in Krakow and looking at the city that Leon knew, being in Auschwitz and looking and seeing the things that Morris Glass talked about, that Rena talked about. And then I think ending with Gazella's testimony being presented by Lee, and then some of the women on the trip reading from her diary, I think that it just renewed my desire to do this work, and making sure that my students have those testimonies and hopefully find one that they connect with the way that I connected, and what gave me purpose truly in my life.
Stephanie, thank you, and thank you for telling us about Leon and your meeting with him. Ashlyn, we're going to go to you next. So as I mentioned in my opening, as others did too, Elie Wiesel said, when you listen to a witness, you become a witness. How have you been able to bring into the classroom what you witnessed about the Holocaust?
So being a witness to history is one of the most important things about my career choice. Being able to share correct and true history with children is extremely important. It allows them to know what truthfully happened and be able to share that truth as well. You can add as many pictures as you want and videos and things from Google about the Holocaust, but standing in those places, again, as I said with the very first question, there was a lot of power in that. And I think that transcribed to my children as well. They were able to see the true weight of the experience that we had together on that trip. I brought back stories from Bernard about his job while he was in a concentration camp. I have a better insight now onto how survivors felt. I have a new insight on how I felt while I was in these places. As I said earlier with the second question, I am a witness now. And in turn, I'm making my students witnesses too. And I've been stopped countless times at work by parents and by coworkers saying, hey, I didn't know this about the Holocaust. Your student just came up and told me, or my kid came home and told me this. And that is such a cool thing because they're taking the information that they're learning and they are becoming witnesses and they are sharing their stories. And not only, are we witnesses, but we're creating the next generation of witnesses. And that is such a powerful thing.
Melanie.
I teach in a school that is about 80% African American. And when I'm teaching about the Holocaust, I feel like it's more than just teaching about history, it's about responsibility. So many of my students already know what it feels like to be discriminated against or to feel oppression or to be treated as less than. They have learned about the civil rights movement and slavery, segregation. And when we talk about the Holocaust, it's not just some distant event that happened to people that they can't relate to. It's another instance of what happens when hatred goes unchecked. When I describe what I saw, the gas chambers, the barracks, the shoes, the hair, I can see how it affects them and they start to make connections on their own. We talk about how it began and how the Jews were not allowed to go to certain places and not to sit on certain benches. And my students say, oh, that sounds like Jim Crow. And that's the same thing they did to Black people. So these moments show me that history is not just something to memorize, it's something that we have to learn from. And the hardest part is talking about the people who let it happen, the neighbors who stayed silent. And when I show them my pictures from Majdanek and how close it was to a neighborhood, they are shocked. These people had to hear it, they had to smell it, they had to see it. And I start asking them, would you have spoken up? What about today? Are you going to speak up today when it happens to someone that's not you? At the same time, I don't just focus on the horror. I want them to see the strength too. The people who resisted, the ones who risked everything to help others, the survivors who refused to let their stories be erased. That part really resonates with my students. They know what it means to be resilient. They understand what it means to fight for dignity. So when I think about being a witness, it's not just about sharing what I saw in Poland. It's about making sure my students understand that history repeats itself when we stop paying attention. It's about showing them that standing up against injustice isn't just something people should do, it's something we have to do. And that responsibility belongs to all of us.
Thank you, Melanie.
That's going to be hard to follow, but it's fine. So this is a quote that I have tried to live my life by. Having made the decision that I was a witness at a young age, trying to turn my students into witnesses as well. And I, like Melanie, talk to my students about standing up in front of injustice. And from coming or going to Poland, one of the things that I brought back, and I shared this with Rabbi Gutman in our group when we were leaving, is the beautifulness of Jewish culture. As somebody that is not Jewish, I have never fully been able to comprehend it, and I still can't. But the trip to Poland and what Rabbi Gutman provides for us is this immersive experience and understanding Jewishness. And it was something that this year in my Holocaust elective, I really tried to bring to my students, taking them to a local temple, having people from the Jewish community come and talk to them, because I don't think that you can truly understand what the Nazis stole from the Jewish community without understanding the Jewish community to some degree. I think that in becoming a witness, students have to find that connection. And so in my elective, and then also in my like world history and AP world history courses, I have them do a testimony project where they have to find somebody to connect with. I try to place my students with survivors that I think that they have some commonality with, so that they can see themselves in those testimonies, so that they can understand that without speaking out against injustice, it can be them. And the most important thing, I think, when becoming a witness, and something that I try to impose onto my students, is that these ordinary people made decisions, and we think every day that the decisions that we make aren't that impactful, but every time we make a decision, we compromise part of ourselves. There is very little black and white in decisions that we make. And so we have to decide what parts of ourselves we're willing to compromise. And I talk to my students about those compromises that people chose to make that led to the path of genocide and has continued to lead to the path of genocide in world history. How we cannot be bystanders, how we can be resistors, and in all types of resistance that we can participate in. And I think that that's truly what becoming a witness means. It is seeing injustice, standing out against injustice, and knowing that me, a private citizen, has the ability to change history if I'm loud enough, if I go about it the correct way. and making sure that we do keep that promise of never again. Something that we continuously say, but sometimes we fall short of. And so that is how I've tried to bring this into my classroom and making them witnesses, but also using photography, my own stories, testimonies, all those kinds of things to try to make them have that connection somewhere.
Thank you. And I want to thank all three of you, Melanie Handy, Ashlyn Steelman-Tolbert, Stephanie Walker, and Rabbi Gutman for being here with us today and sharing your experiences. I also want to give a heartfelt thank you to the three of you. I'm honored to be sitting up here with you, and thank you for your moving discussion, for participating in this panel, and for doing what you're doing in your communities. As the daughter of survivors, I know how important this work is. And you're reaching the children of today, hopefully tomorrow, their parents and their communities. It's incredible, and I am grateful for the work the three of you are doing. Can we please give a round of applause to Melanie, Ashlyn, and Stephanie? And now I'd like to invite Shelley Blywise to the stage to begin our candle lighting.
Sharon, thank you for coordinating that program, and to the teachers, thank you so much for sharing. It is the Jewish custom to light a memorial or yahrzeit candle on the anniversary of a loved one's death as a symbol of living memory of the deceased person. In commemoration of Holocaust Memorial Day, this custom has been adopted by communities around the world, with remembrance candles lit to represent the living memory of the 6 million Jews murdered in the Holocaust. We have also chosen to light additional candles to remember the 5 million other precious souls murdered by the Nazis, to commemorate victims of other genocides and hate crimes, to honor the camp liberators, and to honor the righteous non-Jews who saved thousands of lives. Our ceremony consists of 10 candles. The first candle, called the Shamas or helper candle, will light the 9 other candles. The next 6 candles in memory of the 6 million Jews murdered by the Nazi regime are lit either by Holocaust survivors, one of their descendants, or someone dedicated to Holocaust education. Unfortunately, today, we do not have any survivors able to light a candle. The 8th candle will be lit in memory of the non-Jewish victims of the Holocaust. The 9th candle will be lit in honor of the soldiers who liberated the death camps, slave labor camps, and detention centers. The 10th candle will be lit to commemorate victims of other genocides and hate crimes. Finally, an individual who represents the righteous non-Jews who saved Jews and others in the Holocaust will return the Shamas candle to its candle holder. The Shamas candle will be held by Michael Abramson in memory of his mother, Gisela Gross Abramson, a founder of the North Carolina Council on the Holocaust. Gisela was an agent in 2 espionage units of the Russian resistance forces and survived the Majdanek death camp. Gisela immigrated to the United States in May of 1946. I will light the Shamas candle in memory of my parents, Holocaust survivors Sophie Greenberg and Eddie Blywise, who met and fell in love during deportation and survived independently in the open using fake identities as Polish laborers. They reunited and married after the war and immigrated to the United States in May of 1946 on the SS Marine Flasher, the very first transport ship of Jewish refugees from Germany to the United States. It worked. They got a match?
I'm very sorry. Someone has a match for us. Come on. We're out. So sorry.
That light went out. Now we got a better light. Thank you, Christy. Thank you. May the memory of every Holocaust victim inspire us to pursue meaningful and purposeful lives. Blessed art thou, soul of the universe, who melts hatred like candle wax, leaving only a loving heart. And now invite Rabbi Fred Gutman, the coordinator of the teacher's trip to Poland, to light the first candle to commemorate victims of the Holocaust. A committed and dedicated Holocaust educator for 45 years, Rabbi Gutman has led 23 educational trips to Poland for adults and teens, and as you heard, he estimates that he lost a third of his family in the Holocaust. I now invite our panel moderator Sharon Kurtzman, to light the second candle to commemorate victims of the Holocaust. As you may have already heard, Sharon is the daughter of two Holocaust survivors, Evelyn and Herman Rothspan, and the author of a soon-to-be published historical novel inspired by her family's experiences. I now invite Mark Werner to light the third candle to commemorate victims of the Holocaust. Mark is the son of Harold Werner, a leader in a large and successful Jewish partisan fighting unit in the Polish force that saved 800 Jews from Nazi extermination and did great damage to the German military. I now invite Gail Goldstein to light the fourth candle to commemorate the victims of the Holocaust. Gail is the daughter of Holocaust survivor Simon Leuenberg, who recently passed away at the age of 101. Born in Lodz, Poland, Simon was 16 years old when the Germans invaded Poland. A year later, he was sent to a work camp and never saw his family again. Simon spent the entire war in various work camps before ending up in Auschwitz. I now invite Laura Sokol-Mead to light the fifth candle to commemorate the victims of the Holocaust. Laura is the daughter of Holocaust survivor Helene Hirschberg Sokol. Helene was born in France while her family was fleeing through the mountains from Belgium to Switzerland. She was a displaced person and refugee, the youngest member of a Switzerland refugee camp, and was sent to hide with a Gentile family in the mountains until she was 3. I now invite Margot Kelman and her niece Rebecca Kelman, who is visiting us from Atlanta, to light the sixth and final candle to remember victims of the Holocaust. Margot's mother and Rebecca's grandmother, Marianne Grun, was 11 years old during Kristallnacht in 1939, when her father was incarcerated in Sachsenhausen concentration camp. After his release a month later, Marianne's parents sent her on the Kindertransport to England, where she spent her adolescence in a London refugee youth hostel. Marianne never saw her parents again. They were deported from Germany in 1941 to Riga, Latvia, where they were shot upon their arrival. When Marianne was 17 years old, she met Gerson Kelman, a 21-year-old soldier from New York, at a Hanukkah party. They fell in love and married in 1947 when Marianne arrived in the United States. I now invite Reverend Nancy Petty to light a candle in remembrance of the non-Jewish victims of the Holocaust, many of whom were deemed as life unworthy of life. Reverend Petty has served as senior pastor and spiritual guide of Poland Memorial Baptist Church since 2002, where she has earned a reputation as a well-known and respected community faith leader, speaking out on issues of social justice, interreligious dialogue, and inclusion of the LGBTQIA+ community. I now invite retired Army Colonel Michael J. Flynn to light a candle in honor of the camp liberators. A recipient of numerous U.S. and foreign decorations, Colonel Flynn served for over 30 years at every level of service, from platoon leader to an Army Staff Sergeant in the Pentagon. He served 2 tours of duty in Vietnam, was with the lead element of the 82nd Airborne Division in Grenada, and was the senior intelligence officer in the forward command post of all Army forces in Desert Storm. I now invite Dikran and Hermine Kabadjian to light a candle to commemorate victims of other genocides and hate crimes. Raleigh residents for over 40 years, Dikran and Hermine are descendants of survivors of the 1915 Armenian genocide. Both of their parents lost either a parent or a grandparent in the genocide. And we need to note that the Armenian genocide continues today as a true example of ethnic cleansing. In September 2023, following 9 months of blockading and starving the Armenians living in the autonomous region of Nagorno-Karabakh, Azerbaijani forces conquered the region and evicted the 120,000 Armenians from their ancestral homeland of more than 2,500 years. I now invite back to the stage our teacher friend Melanie Handy to place the Shamas candle in the empty candle holder to honor and commemorate the righteous among the nations, the upstanders in the world who risked their lives to save others. Melanie and the other teachers you heard from today see it as their responsibility to help the younger generations learn the lessons of the Shoah. May all righteous people be a light unto the world. I now invite any Holocaust survivors in the audience to please stand. And if you are able, please come down and join us in front of the stage. Any Holocaust survivors, please. I now invite any children, grandchildren, or great-grandchildren of Holocaust survivors to please join us in front of the stage. Let us observe a moment of silence as we remember our dear ones and resolve never again. Thank you all for your observance of this moment. You may now return to your seats.
As we turn to the El Malay prayer, we are reminded that each and every individual life matters. The 6 million Jews, the 5 million from other classes and groups who were considered for no fault of their own, no reason of their being, to be lesser before the Germans. It is our duty to rise together to offer this prayer, memorializing that their souls are under the care and beloved presence of God, and in our hearts and souls to take them forward and to stand for them every day of our lives.
Please rise. El Malay Rachamim, Shochen Baromim, Hamse Menucha Nichona, Tachat Knafei Hashchina, B'ma'alo Kiddushim U'Tehorim, Kizohar Harakia Mazirim, Lanishmot Kol Acheinu V'Achiotenu, Shenitbechu Shenechergu, Al Kiddush Hashem, V'Gan Eden, Teheh Menuchatam. Ana Ba'al Harachamim, Hastirem Beseter Knafecha Le'olamim, Utzror V'Tzror HaChayim, Et Nishmatam, Adonai Hu Nachalatam, V'yanuchu b'shalom hamishvotam, v'nomar Amen.
Fully compassionate God on high, to our 6 million brothers and sisters murdered because they were our Jews, to the 5 million brothers and sisters murdered because they weren't enough, according to the eyes of their oppressors. We ask, O God, grant clear and certain rest with you in the lofty heights of the sacred and pure, whose brightness shines like the light and the glow of heaven. Source of mercy, forever enfold them in the embrace of your wings. Secure their soul in eternity. Adonai, they are yours. They will rest in peace. And we say, Amen. And we conclude our prayers with the words of the Kaddish, this ancient prayer that acknowledges all of us are connected in this world as one before the Holy One, the Great One. Yitgadal v'yitkadash merabah, v'alma divrach yiruteh v'almich malchuteh, v'chayechon uv'yomechon, uv'chaye dekol beit Yisrael, Bagala ubizman kariv vimru amen. Yehi shmei rabba mevorach leolam omei almaya. Yitbarak v'yishtabak v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitalev v'yitalal shemei dekudusha brichu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata. Tushbechata v'nechemata, damiran me'alma v'imru amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chaim alenu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Osei shalom b'imruma, u'ya'aseh shalom, alenu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. May the one who causes peace to reign in the heavens cause peace to reign upon us in our world and all the generations to come. Amen. Please be seated.
Eli, Eli, shelo yigamer leolam. Hahov hayam, rishru shel hamayim, berok hashamayim, tfilat Adam. Hahov hayam, rishru shel hamayim, berok hashamayim, tfilat Adam. O Lord, my God, I pray that these may never end. The sand and the sea, the rush of the waters, the crash of the heavens, the prayer of the heart, the sand and the sea, the rush of the waters, the crash of the heavens, the prayer of the heart.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for attending this year's Holocaust observance and sharing these solemn moments with our committee. When I provide remarks at a Holocaust commemoration, my plan is to leave the audience with the charge to remember the Holocaust and the lessons learned from the Holocaust. These lessons include the values of democracy, plurality, and inclusion. I put my energies and prayers for a better world into leading the work of the North Carolina Council on the Holocaust. We attempt to reach thousands of teachers and students each year through our podcasts, teacher workshops, teacher webinars, traveling exhibits, book purchases for schools, and Speakers Bureau. We present our programs and provide lesson plans at numerous teacher conferences throughout the state. Our goals are to teach the timeline of the Holocaust and to illustrate to teachers and students that any form of hate severely damages a community and leads to nothing productive. We teach that the lessons of the Holocaust shows us what happens when hate and bigotry become embedded in our community. Since 1990, the Holocaust Council has trained over 25,000 North Carolina teachers, enabling them to better engage their students on the lessons of the Holocaust. Our Holocaust Council has written an incredibly robust gold standard curriculum for grades 6 through 12 for teachers to ensure that they are teaching the Holocaust accurately and with deep understanding. 2 of the 6 teachers who wrote the curriculum are here today. I ask Lori Schaefer and Lee Holder to stand. I have deep admiration and respect for Lee and Lori, as well as for Juanita Ray, Lauren Piner, Karen Claich, and Amy Clark. It has been a year and a half since the October 7th attack in Israel. The trauma and loss from that day and its aftermath are still raw for me personally and are exacerbated by the appalling surge of anti-Semitism against Jews in America and around the world. The disease of anti-Semitism has spread into our public schools as well. Our Holocaust Council now provides lesson plans and workshops to show teachers how to identify and how to confront anti-Semitism in the classroom. So now some personal notes. This is my last year leading the Holocaust Council. I have served as the chair of the council since February of 1999. I am very pleased to introduce Lori Schaefer to you. Lori, please stand again. Thank you. Lori is a former public school teacher and currently heads our teacher programming. Lori will become the chair of the North Carolina Council on the Holocaust on July of this year. If Mary Ann Wasson is in the room, I ask her to stand. Mary Ann has been a Holocaust Council member since 1997 and has been a close advisor and friend to me for 35 years. Mary Ann has also been a member of the Holocaust Commemoration Planning Committee since 1999. She has written much of our programming text that we provide to our teachers. Mary Ann retired from the council and the Commemoration Planning Committee this past September. Much of the council's success is due to Mary Ann's work. Thank you, Mary Ann. You have seen Richard Schwartz many times. Richard, please stand. Richard wrote the Holocaust legislation that bears my mother's name. He is singularly the most influential advocate of Holocaust education in this state since my mother. Thank you, Richard, and I'm proud to call him my friend. I want to begin my appreciation of today's event by thanking our wonderful Rabbi Dinner. Rabbi Dinner always welcomed the Holocaust Council to the warm hallways of Temple Beth Or. Rabbi Dinner has allowed our Holocaust Observance Planning Committee to meet every month at TBO since 1999. Rabbi Dinner has encouraged and facilitated our educational research to the community and to schools. Thank you, Rabbi, for your support and friendship. You are a pillar of strength and leadership to our community, and I truly am proud to be your friend. Thank you, Senator Pro Tempore Phil Berger, for attending today's event and for speaking to us. It is an honor for us to have you here today, sir, and you are welcome back. Thank you, Laura Sokol-Mead, for adding your beautiful voice to our observance today. You were wonderful. Thank you, David O, for your sensational musical pieces on the cello. I look forward to your playing at Kol Nidre services at Temple Beth Or every year. That's a plug to come. And now my friend Lee Holder. Thank you, Lee, for bringing the suitcase exhibit. This exhibit, which I hope you stop and look at on your way out, depicts what a family would take to a ghetto after being expelled from their home. There are many, many pieces of that exhibit that the students relate to. Thank you, Lee, for also bringing the Holocaust survivors who made North Carolina their home exhibit. Teachers tell us that these two exhibits are very impactful to their students. The Holocaust Council has 28 exhibits that it provides to our public schools, and Lee heads up our exhibit programming committee. You know, we essentially have a Holocaust museum in North Carolina. It is the Gazella Abramson Gross Holocaust Education Center in Kinston. Please see about coming down there to take a look at it. And thank you, Lee, for setting that up. Thank you, 7th grade students from Pine Grove Preparatory Academy in Holly Springs for their family and friends of Holocaust survivors showcase exhibit. Students, please stand. And thank you, parents, for bringing them and encouraging them. I love to see the Holocaust Council's programs impact and extend to the classrooms. Thank you, Rabbi Gutman, Melanie Handy, Stephanie Walker, and Ashlyn Steelman-Tolbert for sharing their experiences and aspirations with us as they talked about their trip to Poland. Over the past 3 years, the Holocaust Council has sponsored teachers to participate on the trip. By the way, I met Stephanie Walker in 2011 at a commemoration event similar to this one when she was in high school. Thank you, Sharon Kurtzman, for moderating this great conversation. Sharon is also a member of our Holocaust Commemoration Planning Committee. And thank you, Maxine Sennett, for chairing and leading this fantastic committee. You have been absolutely wonderful. Thank you. Finally, thank you to the Community Security Service for adding their private security organization to this event. I truly hope you felt safe today. We were protected by NC State University Police and the Raleigh Police Department. Please remember to complete the survey that you found on your chair when you entered today. You should find a pencil there too. We sincerely want to hear what you liked about our program and what we could do to improve. Please hand the survey to our student ushers on your way out. Each year, people ask me why we do not have a flag of Israel and why we do not stand for and sing the Israeli national anthem. This is a state event. It is not produced by a religious organization. Local synagogues hold Yom HaShoah services complete with an Israeli flag and with the singing of Hatikvah. To that end, I hold up the governor's proclamation announcing today, April 27th, 2025, as the Day of Remembrance of the Victims of the Holocaust in North Carolina. A copy of the proclamation is on an easel in the lobby outside the exhibits behind the receptionist desk. Also, I hope on the way out, you view Rabbi Gutman's video. It's an 11-minute video that's fantastic, professionally produced on last year's trip. I hope you found our commemoration a powerful message of our shared responsibility to preserve Holocaust memory and to combat the disturbing rise of antisemitism, hatred, and intolerance. We on the North Carolina Council on the Holocaust believe it is our collective responsibility to ensure that the memory of the Holocaust is preserved for future generations. We remember. Now please rise for the singing of America the Beautiful, and thank you.
Oh, beautiful for spacious skies, for amber waves of grain, for purple mountain majesties above the fruited plain. America, America, God shed his grace on thee, and crown thy good with brotherhood from sea to shining sea.
Thank you, everyone, for coming. Good night. Thank you all.